My name is Lucy. I'm 15 years old, and this is the story of how I discovered that some cages are gilded, but they are still prisons. It all started on a December morning when the smell of medicine and poverty in our house was interrupted by a knock on the door. Grandma had been in bed for 3 weeks. A dry cough, a fever that wouldn't break. I knew it was serious, but I pretended everything was fine. I pretended because I had to be strong. I pretended because it was just the two of us against the world. The knock on the door came harder. 3 dry thuds. When I opened it, I saw a tall woman with dyed blonde hair and expensive perfume. I didn't recognize her at first. Then the memory came back like a punch. Aunt Gloria, my voice came out thin, almost a whisper. Lucy, my dear. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. May I come in? I hesitated. Aunt Gloria had disappeared from our lives when my mom died 5 years ago. She never called, never showed up, and now she was here, at our door, as if nothing had happened, of course.
I opened the door for her to pass. The house was a mess.
Clothes scattered, dirty dishes in the sink, the smell of sickness in the air. I felt ashamed. Aunt Gloria looked around with poorly disguised contempt. How is my sister? She asked, referring to Grandma. She's sick. We need money for the doctor? For the medicine, ... double quotes, I know. She sat on the old couch, crossing her legs. That's why I'm here. My heart pounded. Finally, someone was going to help us. Lucy, you are a beautiful girl. Smart. You have a future ahead of you. She paused, studying me. But not here. Not in this life. What do you mean? I've met a man. A very good man. Very rich. He can take care of you and your grandma too. Something cold went up my spine. Take care of us how? By marrying you. The words hung in the air for a long moment. I couldn't process what I had heard. Marriage. My voice came out louder than I intended. Aunt, I'm 15 years old. I know, honey, but it's a unique opportunity. Humbert is a respected man. He's 80 years old, a widower. He just wants company. And in return, he'll pay for all your grandma's treatments. He'll give you both a good life. 80 years old. I couldn't stop repeating the numbers. Aunt, this is ... This is wrong. Wrong is letting your grandma die for lack of money. Her voice became hard. Wrong is wasting your beauty in this miserable house. I ran to Grandma's room. She was awake. She had heard everything. Her eyes were filled with tears. Grandma, tell me this isn't real. Tell me she's lying. Grandma held my hand tightly. Her skin was too hot. Lucy, my child, ... Double quotes, her voice was a whisper. I'm not going to last much longer. And you need to have a future. No, I cried. Grandma, I'll take care of you. I'll get a job. I'll study to be a doctor like I always dreamed, and I'll cure you. Sweetheart, ... double quotes. She stroked my face. Sometimes life forces us to make choices we don't want to. But if you go, if you accept, I can get the care I need, and you'll have a chance. I went back to the living room. Aunt Gloria was looking at her phone, impatient. Decided? She asked without looking at me. What if I say no? Then your grandma will die, and you'll end up like your mother. Poor, alone, dead before you're 40. The cruelty of those words cut me like a blade. My mother had died of cancer. She didn't have money for proper treatment. She died at 38, leaving me with Grandma. I need to think. There's no time to think. Humbert is coming to get you tomorrow. Either you go, or I'm leaving now, and you're on your own. That night, I couldn't sleep.
Just to make sure you keep getting our stories, subscribe to the channel, give this one a like too, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from.
I lay looking at the ceiling, thinking about all the times I dreamed of being a doctor, thinking about the college I could never afford, thinking about Grandma coughing in the next room. When morning came, a black car pulled up in front of the house. Inside, a very old man looked at me through the tinted glass. I picked up a small bag with my few clothes. I kissed Grandma, who was unconscious. I whispered in her ear, I'll be back. I promise I'll be back. I got into the car. Aunt Gloria was in the front seat, smiling. The man in the back seat didn't say a word. He just watched me as if I were an object he had bought. When the car drove off, I looked out the back window. Our little house got smaller and smaller until it disappeared around the corner. I didn't know that was the last time I would see my home for a long time. I didn't know I was entering a story that began long before I was born. A story of silence, of pain, and of a courage I didn't yet know I possessed. The car drove through the city, and with every mile that passed, I felt like I was being taken away from everything I knew, away from myself. But I didn't know yet that sometimes you have to get completely lost to find out who you really are. The mansion appeared after a 2-hour drive. It was bigger than any house I had ever seen. High gates, huge gardens, a fountain in the middle of the courtyard. It looked like a palace, but there was something strange about it. Despite all the beauty, the house had a somber feel, as if it had been sleeping for a long time. "This is where you'll live now," Aunt Gloria said, getting out of the car. The driver took my bag. I got out slowly, still trying to process everything. My legs were shaking. The front door opened before we even reached it. A very tall man with white hair and dark clothes was waiting for us. His eyes were small and piercing. "Humbert?" Aunt Gloria said. "This is Lucy." He studied me in silence for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You can leave her. I'll handle the rest." Aunt Gloria said goodbye with a quick kiss on my cheek and got back in the car. She didn't even look back when they drove away. "Come in," Humbert said. His voice was dry, emotionless. The interior of the mansion was even more impressive than the exterior. Huge chandelier marble staircases, old paintings on the walls, but all the portraits were covered with white cloths. "Why are the paintings covered?" I asked. "Don't ask unnecessary questions," he answered without looking at me. We passed by several employees, a stout cook who averted her eyes when she saw me, a man cleaning the floor who stopped working and lowered his head, a woman arranging flowers who pretended not to notice me. "Why don't they look at me?" I asked again. "Because they know they shouldn't." Humbert stopped and turned to me. "And you'll learn that too." We went up the main staircase. The steps echoed in the silence of the house. On the second floor, he showed me a room. "This is your room. Don't leave it after 9 o'clock at night. Don't enter other rooms without permission. Don't talk to the employees unless it's necessary." The room was large and luxurious. A huge bed, a wardrobe of fine wood, a dressing table with a golden mirror. "But the windows had bars, therefore your protection," Humbert said when he saw me looking. He placed a paper on the table. It was a contract. "I need you to sign this. These are the house rules. And our marriage certificate." "Marriage? But the marriage has already happened. At the city hall. This morning. Your aunt signed as your guardian." I felt the world spin. I was married to a man who could be my great-grandfather. Married without even knowing. And my documents? They're with me now. For your safety. He opened a desk drawer and put away my ID and birth certificate. "Dinner at 7, lunch at noon, breakfast at 8. Don't be late." He laughed and closed the door. I heard the key turn in the lock. I ran to the window. Down below, I saw a young man taking care of the plants. He must have been in his early 20s, with brown hair and dirt-stained hands. When he looked up, our eyes met for a second. He smiled, a sad but kind smile. It was the first good thing I had seen in that place. I sat on the bed and started to cry. I cried for Grandma who was left behind. I cried for my lost freedom. I cried for the dream of being a doctor that seemed further and further away. But deep down, a small voice inside me said, "This can't be forever. There has to be a way out." I looked out the window again. The young gardener was still there, working in silence. And for some reason I couldn't explain, his presence gave me a little hope. Maybe I wasn't completely alone in this place. I woke up on the third day to the sound of rain hitting the window. I was already getting used to the routine. Breakfast alone in the big room. Lunch with Humbert. In silence in the dining room. Dinner the same way. He didn't talk. He just observed. His eyes followed me as if I were an animal in a zoo. That day, I decided to explore the house. Humbert had gone out to do business in the city. The employees were busy with their tasks. It was my chance. I went down the main stairs slowly, trying not to make a sound. The house seemed bigger during the day. Long hallways stretched in all directions. Closed doors held secrets I didn't know. I went into the library. Shelves reaching the ceiling, full of dusty books. The smell of old paper and dampness. In the center, a large table with a leather chair. That's when I saw the young gardener through the window. He was wet from the rain, running for shelter. Our eyes met again through the glass. This time, he waved discreetly. My heart started racing. It had been days since I had talked to anyone other than Humbert and the employees who only answered with yes, ma'am, or no. Ma'am? When he went through the back door, I decided to follow him. I found him drying his hair with a small towel in the pantry. "Hi," I said softly. He turned, startled. Then he relaxed when he saw me. "Hi, you're the new lady of the house." The word lady made me feel strange. I was 15 years old. I didn't feel like a lady of anything. "My name is Lucy."
What's yours, Robert?
He hesitated before continuing. "But I think it's better if you don't talk to me. Ma'am, Mr. Humbert doesn't like it." "Why?" Robert looked around, as if someone could be listening. Because he doesn't like us getting close to his wives." "Wives?" Plural. He realized he had said too much. He turned pale. I have to get back to work." "Robert, wait." I held his arm. "What did you mean by wives?" At that moment, we heard footsteps in the hallway. Robert quickly broke free and ran out the back door. When I turned around, Humbert was standing at the entrance to the pantry. His eyes were as cold as ice. "What were you doing here?" I was looking for a glass of water." "There's water in your room, and in the dining room, and in the kitchen." He came closer. "You don't need to come to the pantry, sorry. I'm still getting used to the house." "Then let me be clearer." His voice became lower, more dangerous. "Don't talk to the employees. Don't enter rooms that are not permitted. And never, ever come to the pantry again." I nodded my head, trying to control my trembling. "Go to your room and stay there until dinner." I ran up the stairs. My heart was pounding. There was fear, but also anger. Who did he think he was to treat me like a prisoner? In my room, I sat on the bed and tried to organize my thoughts. Robert had said wives, in the plural. It meant Humbert had been married before. But where were these other women? I looked out the window. Robert was in the garden again, even in the rain. He worked with dedication, as if he wanted to keep busy. Sometimes he would look up at my window, but quickly look away when he realized I was watching. That night, at dinner, I tried to make conversation with Humbert. "The house is very beautiful. How long have you lived here?" "Since I was a child." "And your family?" "All dead." "I'm sorry." He looked at me with irritation. "You don't need to be sorry. Death is part of life. And you. Have you been married before?" The fork stopped halfway to his mouth. The silence became heavy, threatening. "Why do you ask that?" "Just curious. The house looks like it belonged to a big family." "I have been married. Yes, my wife died." "How did she die?" Humbert put the fork on the plate with a loud clang. The noise echoed through the room. "Enough questions. Finish your dinner and go to your room." I ate in silence, but my mind was raging. Each of his answers led to 10 new questions, and there was something in the way he talked about his dead wife that made me uneasy. When I was going up to my room, I heard footsteps behind me. It was one of the maids, a middle-aged woman who worked in cleaning. "Ma'am," she whispered, "be careful with your questions." "Why?" She looked nervously from side to side. "Because those who ask too many questions in this house ... disappear." Before I could answer, she had already gone down the stairs quickly. In my room, I lay on the bed, thinking about her words. Disappear. What did that mean? I got up and went to the window. The garden was dark, but I could see a light on in a small house in the back, probably where Robert lived. I felt an enormous urge to scream, to break something, to punch the wall. But instead, I picked up a notebook I had found on the desk and started to write. I wrote about Grandma, about my dreams of being a doctor, about the feeling of being trapped in a gilded cage. I wrote until my hand ached. And at the bottom of the page, I wrote a promise to myself. I will find out what happened to the other wives, and I will find a way to get out of here. I hid the notebook under the mattress and tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. All that remained was the certainty that this house held secrets that might be the key to my freedom or my doom. A week passed since I arrived at the mansion. 7 days of silence, routine, and watchful eyes. I was starting to understand the unwritten rules of that place. First rule, don't ask questions. Second rule, don't get close to the employees. Third rule, obey without questioning. But I was never good at following rules. That morning, Humbert left early for the city. He said he would only be back late in the afternoon. It was my opportunity. I went down to the library again. There was something about that place that attracted me. Maybe it was the smell of the books, which reminded me of better times. Or maybe it was the fact that it was the only room where I felt less watched. I started to leaf through the books on the shelves. Most were about business, law, politics, serious subjects for a serious man. But on a higher shelf, I found something different. Novels, poetry, literature. I picked up a book of poems by Emily Dickinson. When I opened it, something fell to the floor. It was a letter. The paper was yellowed, the ink a little faded. The handwriting was delicate, feminine. Dear sister, if you are reading this, it means you managed to find my letter. I hope you never need it. But if you do, know that you are not alone. My name is Helena. I was Humbert's second wife. Before me, there was Mary. After me, there will be others. There are always others. My heart stopped. I wasn't the first or the second. I kept reading. Humbert is not just a lonely old man. He is ... complicated. Dangerous in a way you haven't understood yet. If you're here, it was probably the same way as me. They promised to take care of someone you love. They promised a better life. It's always like that. My hands were shaking as I read. There is a door at the end of the second-floor hallway that he always keeps locked. Don't try to open it. At least not yet. First, you need to understand who you're dealing with, and you need to find a way to get out. The letter ended abruptly. If you are reading this, Helena no longer exists. But her story, her words, her pain, ... All of this lives on in these pages. Don't let them silence you too, with love and hope. Helena. I sat in the leather chair, still holding the letter. Helena, the dead wife Humbert had mentioned at dinner. But she didn't seem to have died of illness or an accident. She seemed to have ... I hid the letter inside the book and put it back on the shelf. But my head was swirling with questions. At lunch, I tried to look at Humbert with different eyes. He ate methodically, cutting his meat into small, even pieces. His movements were precise, controlled, like everything about him. Humbert, I said suddenly, do you miss Helena? He stopped chewing. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. How do you know her name? Crap. I had been careless. You ... You mentioned it yesterday, at dinner. No, I didn't mention her name. The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. Humbert put his silverware on the table and stood up slowly. You've been snooping around the house. No, His shout echoed through the room. Where did you hear the name Helena? I didn't know what to say. If I told him about the letter, he would know I was investigating. If I lied and he found out ... In the library. I heard one of the maids talking about it. Which maid? I don't know her name. Humbert left the room without a word. 5 minutes later, I heard screams coming from the kitchen. Then, a door slamming. I ran to the living room window. I saw a woman leaving through the back door with a suitcase in her hand.
It was the maid who had warned me about the question.
She was walking fast, almost running. Humbert had fired her. Because of me? In the afternoon, when he returned from the city, he called me into the library. Sit down, he said, pointing the chair. I obeyed, trying to control my nervousness. Lucy, you've been here for a week. Long enough to understand how things work.
Yes, sir.
But it seems you still don't understand. He walked until he was behind my chair. I felt his breath on my neck. Let me be clearer. He put his hands on my shoulders. His hands were cold, heavy. You are my wife now. That means your previous life is over. Your previous dreams are over. Your previous hopes are over. You live for me. Only for me. He squeezed my shoulders hard. It hurts. And if you try to discover things you shouldn't, if you try to leave, if you try to disobey me, ... He leaned in and whispered in my ear, you will meet the same fate as the others. He let go of my shoulders and left the library. I was left alone, shaking, not with fear, but with anger, pure, burning anger. He was threatening me, confirming that there were others before me, and that they had all ... disappeared. That night, I couldn't eat dinner. I said I wasn't feeling well and went up to my room. But it wasn't sickness, it was determination. I took the notebook from under the mattress and wrote frantically, Helena, I read your letter, and I promise I won't disappear like you. I won't let him silence me. I'm going to find out what happened to you and the others. And I'm going to get out of here before it's too late. I put the notebook away and looked out the window. Robert was in the garden, even though it was night. He was working under the light of a lamp. Maybe it was time to risk a real conversation with him. Maybe he knew more about Helena and the other wives. Maybe he was my only chance to discover the truth. Or maybe it was a trap. But at that moment, I was willing to risk everything. Because the alternative was to accept my fate in silence. And that was never going to happen. 3 in the morning! The mansion was in absolute silence. It was the perfect time. I had spent the last 2 days observing the movements of the house. Humbert was a heavy sleeper and snored. I could hear him through the walls. The employees stayed in their houses in the back of the property. I was alone on the second floor. I left the room barefoot, tiptoeing. The hallway was dark, with only the moonlight coming through the high windows. I counted the doors. 1, 2, 3. At the end of the hallway, I found what Helena had mentioned in the letter. A dark wooden door, more ornate than the others. It had an old, golden lock. I tried to turn the doorknob locked. I put my ear to the door. Total silence. What secrets did that room hold? I went back to my room frustrated, but not defeated. If I couldn't get into Helena's room, maybe I could find other clues. The next day, during my afternoon free time, I went down to the library again. This time, I looked more carefully. I leafed through every book of literature. Inside a copy of The Scarlet Letter, I found a small, black and white photo. A young, beautiful girl, smiling at the camera. On the back, it was written, Helena, 16 years old. My heart pounded. Helena was only 1 year older than me. When When she married Humbert? When she disappeared? I quickly hid the photo when I heard footsteps approaching. It was Robert, carrying a plant pot. Ma'am? Mr. Humbert asked to change these flowers. I looked around. We were alone. Robert, I whispered, I need to talk to you. He tensed up immediately. Ma'am, I can single quotes T. It's about Helena. His reaction was immediate. He almost dropped the pot. You shouldn't say that name. Did you know her? Robert looked nervously at the door, then came closer. I was just a boy when she was here. I was about 12. My dad worked in the garden, like I do now. What happened to her? I don't know. One day she was here. The next, she had disappeared. Mr. Humbert said she had run away during the night. But what? But she never took anything. All her clothes were left in the room. The jewelry. Everything. What kind of person runs away and doesn't take anything? A shiver went up my spine. And before her? Were there others? Robert nodded slowly. Mary Shuizola? Must have been about 20. She stayed here for 2 years. Then, she also disappeared. How many were there? That I know of. 3. Countin' ya, ma'am. But my dad worked here before I was born. He talked about others? Older ones. The plant pot trembled in his hands. Ma'am, you need to be careful. Very careful. Why? What do you know? At that moment, we heard the sound of a door closing upstairs. He's back, Robert whispered, terrified. You need to act normal, and I need to go. He quickly left through the back door. At dinner that night, I watched Humbert with different eyes. He wasn't just a controlling old man. He was a predator. A collector of young girls who disappeared when they no longer served his purpose. You're quiet today, he said. I'm just tired. Tired of what? You don't do anything all day. The provocation irritated me, but I controlled my reaction. That's true. Maybe I could do something useful. Study, for example. Study, he laughed, but there was no humor in the laugh. For what? I always wanted to be a doctor. Forget it. Married women don't need a profession. Especially my women. Your women? I let the question slip before I thought. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Humbert looked at me with that dangerous expression I was already learning to recognize. What did you mean by that? Nothing. It was just a way of speaking. No. You said you're women, in the plural. My mind raced for an explanation. I meant the women in your family. Your mother? Your sisters, double quotes. My mother died when I was 10. I never had sisters. The silence that followed was deadly. Humbert stood up slowly and came to my side of the table. Lucy, you are lying to me. No. I shut up. The shout was so loud I felt like I had been slapped. My whole body trembled. Go to your room. Now. And don't leave until I tell you to. I got up from the table with shaky legs. When I was almost at the door, he spoke again. And Lucy, if I find out that you've been asking questions you shouldn't, or talking to people you shouldn't, you'll regret it very much. I ran up the stairs. In the room, I locked the door and leaned against it, breathless. He knew. Somehow, he knew I was investigating. I took the notebook and wrote frantically. Helena, I'm starting to understand. You didn't run away? They never run away. They just disappear. and now he's getting suspicious of me. I need to be smarter. I need to find evidence. I need to find a way to get out of here before it's too late. I put the notebook away and went to the window. Robert was in the garden, but this time he looked directly at me. He made a discreet gesture, pointing down. There was something on the ground below my window. I waited until I was sure Humbert was asleep. Then I tied the sheets together and climbed down the window. It was risky, but I was desperate. On the ground, I found a small folded paper. The handwriting was Robert's library. Philosophy shelf. Third book from the left. There are more letters. I went back to the room the same way. My heart was pounding, but not with fear. It was excitement. I was finally getting close to the truth. The next day, Humbert left early again. I ran to the library. Philosophy shelf. Third book from the left. It was a thick copy of Nietzsche. When I opened it, I found a small envelope. Inside, there were 3 letters, all in different handwriting. The first was from Mary. To whoever comes after me, Humbert is not just controlling. He's sick. Obsessed. He keeps things from the previous wives. Hair, clothes, personal objects, like trophies. The locked room is where he keeps everything. It's his private museum of dead women. The second letter was from Helena again. Longer. I found out why he always marries young girls. It's not just desire, it's power. He likes to mold, to control, to destroy our identity, little by little. First, he isolates us. Then, he humiliates us. In the end, when we have nothing left of our own, we disappear, and he looks for a new one. The third letter chilled me to the bone. It was not signed. He told me the truth last night. When he drank too much, he said the first wife tried to run away. He found her on the road. He said she had an accident. The others, also had accidents. I'm writing this because I know my accident will be next. If anyone finds this letter, know this. We didn't run away.
We didn't disappear.
We were murdered. My hands were shaking so much, I almost dropped the letters. Murdered. Humbert was a murderer. I quickly put the letters away when I heard footsteps in the hallway. It was a new maid who had been hired to replace the one who was fired. "Ma'am," she said nervously, "Mr. Humbert has arrived. He's looking for you." I went up to the room, trying to look calm. But inside, I was in total panic. Humbert was waiting for me, sitting in the armchair in the room. His hands were clasped in his lap. His expression was cold. "Where were you?" "In the library. Reading." "What were you reading?" "Poetry. Emily Dickinson." He got up and went to the library shelf to get the book. He came back, leafing through the pages. "Interesting," he said. "This book has bookmarks in very specific places. As if someone had hidden something here." My blood ran cold. I like to bookmark the poems I like best. "Of course." He closed the book and looked me directly in the eyes. "Lucy, do you know what happens to people who lie to me?" I shook my head. "They learn that lying has consequences." He left the room and locked the door from the outside. I stayed there, alone, knowing that he was starting to seriously suspect me, and also knowing that women who aroused Humbert's suspicions didn't live long. I needed a plan, fast, because now I knew the truth. I wasn't just trapped in a mansion. I was trapped with a murderer, and time was running out. 5 days locked in the room. 5 days without seeing anyone but the maid who brought food. 5 days to think, to plan, and to try to find a way out. Humbert hadn't come up to the room again. He sent meals through the new maid, a thin, nervous woman who barely spoke to me. But on the 5th day, something changed. The maid brought dinner as usual, but this time she whispered something as she placed the tray on the table. The gardener sent this. It was a small folded paper under the plate. "Tonight, midnight. The back window on the 1st floor. He's traveling tomorrow. It's our chance." Robert was planning to help me escape. I felt a mix of relief and terror. Relief, because finally someone was offering me a way out. Terror, because I knew that if we were caught... That night, I waited until I was absolutely sure everyone was asleep. I tied the sheets again and went down the window. Robert was waiting for me in the garden, hidden behind a large bush. "Did you get it?" he whispered. "I did. But what now?" "Now we go out through an opening in the back fence. My cousin is waiting with a car on the road." "Robert." I held his arm. "Why are you helping me? You could lose your job." "It could be worse than that." He looked at me with deep sadness. Because I saw what happened to the others, and because I couldn't help them. Do you know how they died? I don't know the details, but I know they tried to run away, and I know he always found them. A shiver went up my spine. How did he find them? He has contacts, police officers, private investigators, people who have worked for him for years. It's hard to hide from Humbert. We started walking toward the back of the property. The night was dark, moonless. Our steps on the grass made the only sound. There's something you need to know, Robert continued as we walked, about why he always chooses young girls. The letters talked about control, about power, ... It's more than that. Robert stopped and looked at me. He lost his first wife when he was young. She was killed in a robbery. He truly loved her. After that, he went crazy. He started looking for girls who looked like her. Looked like her how? Brown hair, dark eyes, small, like you. I felt nauseous. I was just a substitute, a shadow of a dead woman. He tries to recreate what he lost, but since he never succeeds, he discards and looks for another. We reached the back fence. Robert showed me a small opening, almost hidden by the vegetation. It's here. On the other side of the road, there's a car waiting. I was starting to go through the opening when we heard voices. I can't believe they thought I wouldn't find out. It was Humbert, with 2 other people. Men, run! Robert pushed me out of the fence. I started running down the road, but I heard screams behind me. Robert was screaming. Then, silence. I stopped and turned around. I couldn't see anything in the darkness, but I knew they had caught Robert. The car that was supposed to pick me up was nowhere to be seen. I was alone on the road, in the middle of the night, with no documents, no money, no place to go. But I was free. I started walking. I didn't know where to, but I knew I had to get away from the mansion. With every step, I expected to hear cars following me. After an hour of walking, I saw lights on the road. A small town, closed bars, dark houses, a few gas station lights. I went into the first place. I found open a 24-hour gas station. Please, I said to the attendant, I need to use a phone. He looked at me strangely. I was barefoot, in my pajamas, dirty with dirt. Did something happen, miss? I ran away from home. I need to call my grandma. He gave me the phone. I dialed our neighbor's number, the only person who had a phone near our house. Mrs. Johnson. It's Lucy! Please, can you get my grandma? I waited anxiously. When I heard Grandma's weak voice, I started to cry. Grandma. Lucy? My child, where are you? I ran away. Grandma, I ran away from that horrible place, but I don't know where I am. Calm down, my child. Where are you now? I asked the attendant the name of the town. He told me. Grandma, I'm in a town 2 hours from home, but I don't have money to go back. Lucy, listen carefully. Your Aunt Gloria was here yesterday. She said that if you ran away, they would stop paying for my treatment. And she said they would find you no matter what. I felt the world fall apart. Grandma, my child, maybe it's better for you to come back, at least until we find another solution. I hung up the phone without answering. I couldn't believe it. Even my own grandmother was asking me to go back. I sat on the floor of the gas station and started to cry. I was alone in the world. No family, no money, no place to go. The attendant came closer. Miss, I don't know what your situation is, but if you want, I can give you a ride to the next big city. I have a daughter your age. I wouldn't want her to be alone on the road. I looked at him. He was a simple man, about 50, with a worried father's face. Thank you, I said, but I think I need to go back, because at that moment, I didn't see any other option. I was cornered. Humbert had money, power, influence. I was just 15 and wearing dirty pajamas, but as I was getting up to ask him to take me back, I remembered the letters. The women who tried to run away and were killed. If I went back now, with Humbert knowing I tried to escape, my fate was sealed. Actually, I said to the attendant, I'll take the ride, because sometimes, when all your options are bad, you have to choose the one that at least gives you a chance to fight, even if it's a very small chance. The attendant took me to the next big city. During the ride, I told him part of my story. Not everything was too risky, but enough for him to understand that I was running from a dangerous situation.
Since you've been here with me all this time, it means you enjoy our story. So, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. Give this one a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from.
Miss, he said when we got to the bus station, are you sure you don't want me to help you go to the police? It's no use. The person I'm running from has influence, even with the police. He gave me $50 and his phone number. If you need anything, call. And be careful. I was left alone in the middle of the bus station at 6 in the morning. I didn't know anyone in the city. I had no documents. I had no plan. But I was alive. I bought a bagel and a coffee with some of the money. I sat on a bench and tried to think about what to do. First option, try to go back home. But Humbert would definitely be watching. Second option, go to the police. But who would believe a 15-year-old girl's word against a rich and respected man? Third option, try to survive alone in the city. But how? I was lost in thought when a woman approached. She must have been about 40, with short hair and simple but clean clothes. Are you okay, honey? I looked at her suspiciously. I had learned not to trust strangers. You look very young to be alone in a bus station at this hour. I'm waiting for someone. She sat down next to me, even without me inviting her. Look, I work for a nonprofit that helps homeless kids and teens. If you want, I'm not homeless. That's fine. But if you change your mind, she gave me a card. My name is Anne. We offer temporary shelter, food, help with getting documents. I put the card in my pocket without looking at it. Anne stayed there for a few more minutes, trying to make conversation. When she realized I wasn't going to talk, she got up. Anything. Cole. Our shelter is downtown. We're open 24 hours. After she left, I took the card and read it. House of Hope Shelter Protection for Children and Teens in Vulnerable Situations. I spent the whole day walking around the city. I bought more food with the rest of the money. At night, when it started to get cold, I found a bench in a park to try to sleep, but I couldn't. With every noise, I thought it could be Humbert, or someone looking for me. I stayed awake all night, shivering with cold and fear. On the second day, hunger was starting to hurt. The money was gone. I was sitting in the same park when two men approached. Are you Lucy? One of them asked. My blood ran cold. They had found me. No, you're mistaken. We have a picture of you. Humbert Jones is very worried. He wants you to come home. I got up from the bench and started to run. They came after me. I ran through the downtown streets, entering alleys, jumping over obstacles. My heart was pounding. I managed to lose them when I entered a shopping mall full of people. But now, I was sure. Humbert was looking for me, and he had found me. I took out Anne's card and looked for the address of the House of Hope shelter. When I got there, I was exhausted and desperate. It was a small, simple building with a discreet sign at the entrance. Anne was at the reception. When she saw me, her face showed concern. Did you change your mind? I need help. Of course. Come with me. She took me to a small but cozy room. She offered water, food, a place to shower. Do you want to tell me what's happening? I hesitate. If I told her the whole truth, she might not believe me. Or worse, she might contact Humbert. I'm running from a forced marriage. How old are you? 15? And who wanted to force you to marry? A much older man. My aunt made a deal with him and nodded. She didn't seem surprised. That happens more than you think. We have other cases here. Other cases, girls forced to marry older men, usually for financial reasons. Some manage to escape, others, Others, what? Others never managed to get out. I felt enormous relief. Finally, someone who understood. Can I stay here? You can. But we'll have to register your situation and eventually contact your family. No, please, don't contact anyone. It's dangerous. Anne looked at me seriously. Lucy, if you're in real danger, we can help in other ways. We have contacts with lawyers, with the police, The police won't help. He has influence. Who is he? I took a deep breath. Maybe it was time to trust someone. Humbert Jones. Have you heard of him? Anne's reaction was immediate. She turned pale. Humberto Jones! The businessman? You know him? We know the name. He has appeared in other situations, always involving young girls. I felt a mix of relief and fear. Relief because I was finally with people who knew who Humbert was. Fear because it confirmed that I wasn't the first. What do you know about him? We know he's dangerous, and we know that girls who get involved with him have a habit of disappearing. Anne stood up. Lucy, you did the right thing by running. And now we're going to do everything we can to protect you. For the first time in weeks, I felt that maybe there was hope. But deep down, I knew that Humbert wasn't going to give up and that the game was just beginning. A week at the shelter, a week sleeping in peace, eating real food, talking to other girls who had been through similar situations. Anne had introduced me to a lawyer, Dr. Martin, who specialized in cases of abuse and forced marriages. He was building a file against Humbert.
Lucy, he said during our third conversation, your information is very valuable.
But we're going to need more concrete evidence. What kind of evidence? Documents, witnesses, something that proves he's forcing underage girls to marry. I thought about the letters I had found in the library, about the photos, about the diary Helena had mentioned. What if I could get back into the mansion to get documents? Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. But it might be our only chance. He keeps things, trophies from the other wives. If we could prove, Lucy, you're a 15-year-old girl. We're not going to put your life at risk. But the idea wouldn't leave my head. I knew where Humbert kept his secrets. I knew how to get into the house. And I knew that without concrete evidence, he would continue to do this to other girls. That night, I talked to Marina, a 17-year-old girl who had been at the shelter for 2 months. Marina, if you could prevent other girls from going through what you went through, would you take the risk? Depends on the risk. What if it was a big risk, but the only way to stop a man who hurts girls? She looked at me seriously. You're planning something, aren't you? I told her my plan. Her eyes got wider and wider. Lucy, that's suicide. Maybe, but it's also our only chance. The next day, Anne called me into her office. Her expression was worried. Lucy, we had a visit last night. My heart stopped. Who? 2 men. They said they were private investigators. They were looking for you. What did you say? That we had never seen you. But they insisted. They showed photos. They offered money for information. And we kicked them out. But Lucy, ... They know you're in the city. It's only a matter of time until they find you. I felt despair return. Humbert was getting closer. Anne, I have to get out of here. Where will you go? I don't know, but I can't put you in danger. Lucy, we have a proposal. Dr. Martin got in touch with an investigative journalist, someone who specializes in exposing powerful people, and he wants to talk to you. If you agree to tell your story publicly, it might force an official investigation, but it will be my word against his. Not necessarily. This journalist, Carlos, was already investigating Humbert for other issues. Your information could be the missing piece. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a small downtown coffee shop, talking to Carlos. He was a man in his 40s, with graying hair and attentive eyes. Lucy, can I record our conversation? You can. Tell me everything, from the beginning. I spent 2 hours telling my story. Carlos asked precise questions, wrote everything down, and recorded every word. And you said there were letters from other women? Yes, at least 3. All talking about disappearances. And there's a locked room with their personal belongings, according to the letters. Yes. Carlos leaned back in his chair. Lucy, your story confirms other information I already had. There are at least 5 cases of young girls who married Humbert and then disappeared in the last 15 years. 5. At least. It could be more. The problem is, we never had anyone willing to talk. The families always received money to stay quiet. Like my aunt. Exactly. But now we have you, and you're willing to talk. I am. Then we'll do this. I'm going to publish your story tomorrow. A full article, with photos, testimonials. This will create public pressure. The police will be forced to investigate. What if he tries to silence me before that? Carlos looked at me seriously. It's a real risk. That's why, starting today, you're going to stay in a safe place. I know. Away from the shelter. Away from anywhere he could imagine. That night, Carlos took me to the house of a friend of his, a human rights lawyer who lived in a small apartment in the suburbs. Tomorrow,
he said before leaving, your story will be on the front page of the newspaper and on the internet.
In a few days, all of America will know who Humbert Jones is. I lay on the borrowed bed, thinking about what was to come. In a few hours, my life was going to be turned upside down again. But this time, I was no longer alone. And this time, I was no longer afraid. I was angry. And anger, sometimes, is the most powerful fuel there is. Businessman accused of forcing marriages with minors. The headline was on the front page of 3 different newspapers. A photo Carlos had taken the day before was next to the main headline. Carlos called me at 7 in the morning. Lucy, it worked. The story is being talked about all over the country. The district attorney has already commented. They're going to open an investigation. I sat on the bed, still trying to process everything. Now what? Now we wait for the reaction, and we prepare for what's to come. I didn't have to wait long. At 9 in the morning, the lawyer's phone rang. Dr. Patricia, this is Anne, from the House of Hope shelter. Is Lucy there? She is. Why? Because 4 police cars just arrived here, and a search and seizure warrant. My blood ran cold. A warrant for what? To take Lucy back to her family. Signed by a judge from a neighboring county. Dr. Patricia hung up the phone and looked at me. Lucy! They're trying to take you back. How? The story just came out. Humbert has a lot of power. He managed to convince a judge that you're a runaway minor who needs to go home. I felt panic take over. I can't go back. If I go back, ... double quotes I know. That's why we're going to fight. I'm already calling judges I know in this city. We'll get a restraining order to protect you. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Lawyers coming and going, phone calls, papers being signed, and all the time, I had the feeling that at any moment, someone would knock on the door to take me away. At 2 in the afternoon, Dr. Patricia came back with a look of relief. We did it. The judge in this city suspended the other county's warrant. You're protected. At least for now. Now what? Now we wait for the district attorney's investigation. But Carlos called with other news. Lucy, Humbert's house is being searched right now. The FBI got a warrant? Did they get into the locked room? They did. And Lucy, ... they found. What kind of things? Personal belongings? Photos? Hair? And documents that prove there have been at least 8 marriages in the last 20 years. 8? 8 girls. Lucy, all between 14 and 17 years old. I felt nauseous. 8 girls. And I was almost the 9th. And them? The girls? Did they find anything about what happened to them? They're still investigating, but they've already found death certificates for at least 3. All from accidents. The word accidents echoed in my head. The letters were right. Humbert had killed his wives when they tried to escape or rebel. Carlos, has he been arrested? Not yet. He's disappeared. No one knows where he is. The fear came back with full force. If he disappeared, I know what you're thinking, but he won't be able to get to you. The police are watching, but I knew Humbert was smart, rich, influential. If he wanted to find me, he would. That night, the impact of the story exploded on social media. #JusticeForLucy became one of the top trending topics in the country. Thousands of people shared my story, demanding justice. But in the midst of all this solidarity, I received a call that changed everything. Lucy. The voice was weak, tired. Grandma, my child, are you okay? I am. Grandma, I was worried about you. How did you get my number? That journalist, Carlos, he called me. He told me everything. I started to cry just hearing her voice. Grandma, I'm sorry I left without saying goodbye properly. But I couldn't. You don't need to apologize, my child. You did what you had to do. How are you? The medicine? The treatment? ... I'm better. Much better. But Aunt Gloria said she would stop paying. Onto gloriarito, Lucy? The money was never from her? My treatment money was coming from Medicare anyway. She just pretended she was paying to blackmail you. I felt the world spin. Everything had been a lie. I had been handed over to Humbert based on a lie. Grandma, ... my child. I found out everything from the newspaper. About that terrible man. About the other girls, ... Lucy, you saved your own life. And you saved the lives of others who would have come after. I talked to Grandma for an hour. She told me that the police had interrogated Aunt Gloria, who confessed to having received $50,000 to hand me over to Humbert. And where is she now? Arrested? For human trafficking. I felt a bitter satisfaction. At least one kind of justice was being served. The next day, Carlos brought more news about the investigation. Lucy, they found Helena's diary. My heart raced. Where? In the locked room, along with the personal belongings of the others. What did it say? Carlos opened a folder and took out copies of some pages. Helena documented everything, the abuse, the threats, the escape attempts. But there's one specific thing that will interest you. He showed me a specific page. March 5th, 10th. I found out that Robert, the gardener, is also a victim of Humbert. His father was murdered for trying to rebel. Humbert raised Robert from a child to be his servant. Robert knows everything, but he's too scared to talk. Robert, ... I whispered. He tried to help me escape, and he risked his life for it. The police found him yesterday. Where? How is he? He was hiding in an abandoned house near the mansion. Malnourished, bruised. Humbert had tortured him to find out where you had gone. I felt guilt and anger in equal proportions. Is he okay now? He's in the hospital, but he's already given his testimony. Lucy, his testimony is devastating. He confirmed everything you said. And he revealed more things. What kind of thing? He said he saw Humbert kill one of the wives with his own hands. The silence that followed was heavy. Carlos, are they going to be able to arrest him? If we can find him, yeah. With your testimony, Robert's testimony, the evidence from the room, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. What if we can't find him? Carlos didn't answer. But I knew the answer. If we couldn't find Humbert, he would remain free, and I would remain in danger. That afternoon, I was watching TV when I saw something that made me freeze. Businessman Humbert Jones was found dead in his mansion this morning. According to the police, he suffered a stroke during the night. The reporter continued talking, but I couldn't process the words. Humbert was dead. Dead. I sat on the couch, trying to understand what I was feeling. It wasn't exactly relief. It was something more complex. Carlos arrived an hour later. Did you see the news? I did. How are you feeling? Confused? Was he dead when the police arrived? Yes. From what we've gathered, he returned to the mansion last night. Neighbors heard screams coming from the house. When the police arrived this morning, they found him in the locked room. He had suffered a stroke. In the locked room. Yes. He was surrounded by photos and objects of the dead wives, as if he was having a mental breakdown. I thought about everything that had happened. The pressure of the investigation, the media coverage, the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison. Maybe, I said in a low voice. He couldn't handle seeing his secrets exposed. Maybe. Or maybe guilt finally caught up with him. We spent a few minutes in silence. Then, Carlos spoke. Lucy, I know it's strange to say this, but you achieved something very important. What? Justice. Not the way we expected, but justice. Humbert will never hurt anyone again, and his story was exposed. Other girls will know they can report, that they can fight, and the ones he killed, Helena, Mary, the others, will they get justice? They will. The investigation will continue. The Bodies will be looked for. The families will know the truth. At that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. It wasn't the end I had imagined, but it was an end. And for the first time since it all began, I felt like I could breathe freely. 3 months later, I was back in school. A good private school, paid for, with money from the settlement I received from the state for negligence in my case. Grandma was doing well, getting proper treatment at a private hospital. We moved to a small but comfortable house far from our hometown. I received hundreds of letters from girls who had been through similar situations. Many of them found the courage to report their abusers after seeing my story. Robert made a full recovery. He got a job at a flower shop and was studying landscape design at night. We talked on the phone every week. Lucy, he said in one of those conversations, you know you saved a lot more people than just yourself, right? What do you mean? The investigation led to other discoveries. Other powerful men who were doing the same thing as Humbert. It's becoming a national operation. It was true. My story had opened a Pandora's box. Dozens of similar cases were being investigated. Hundreds of girls were being protected. One day, Dr. Martin called me with a proposal. Lucy, would you like to work with us? What do you mean? To create a project to help girls in similar situations to yours. You would have first-hand experience. You would know how to talk to them, how to help them. The idea immediately appealed to me. What exactly would I do? Support groups, lectures at schools, training to identify signs of abuse. You would be an active voice in protecting other girls. I accepted right away. And that's how Project Helena was born. I named it after the woman who had left the letters that saved me. The woman who, even in death, continued to protect others through her words. 6 months after Humbert's death, I spoke publicly for the first time since the first interview. It was at a conference on children's and adolescents' rights.
If this story kept you hooked until now, just imagine the next ones. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any. Give this one a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from right now.
I was nervous when I got on stage. There were over 1,000 people in the audience. My name is Lucy, I began. I am 16 years old, and this is the story of how a dead girl taught me how to live. I talked about Helena, about her letters, about how the words of one victim became weapons of liberation for others. Helena never managed to leave the mansion, I said at the end of the talk, but her voice got out, and it echoed in me, and now it echoes in you. I took Helena's diary from my bag, the same diary the police had found, and which was later given to me. I'm going to read you the last paragraph, Helena wrote. I opened the marked page and read aloud. If anyone is reading this in the future, know that every word written here was written with love. Love for all the girls who will come after me. Love for the hope that one day this will end. My voice may have been silenced, but my words are eternal. And through them, I continued to fight. I closed the diary and looked at the audience. Helena's voice was not silenced. It echoed in me, and now it echoes in each of you who is here. Every time we protect a girl, every time we report abuse, every time we refuse to accept that this is normal, Helena is with us. The auditorium was in total silence. My dream, I continued, was always to be a doctor, to heal people. Today, I know I can heal in other ways. I can heal wounds that you can't see. I can heal traumas that don't bleed. I can heal the silence that kills more than any disease. When I came down from the stage, there were tears in the eyes of many people. And there was something else. There was determination. That night, dozens of people came up to me to say they were going to get involved in protection projects, that they were going to report cases they knew about, that they were no longer going to remain silent. And I knew Helena was right. Words are eternal. And through them, we continue to fight. I walked out of the auditorium with the diary in my hands. I looked up at the starry sky and whispered, "Thank you, Helena. Your voice will never be silenced. As long as I'm alive, it will echo through me." And at that moment, I felt that I was no longer the scared girl who had been taken to a mansion 6 months ago. I was someone new, someone stronger, someone who had learned that sometimes, to save our own voice, we first need to listen to the voice of those who were silenced before us, and that the greatest act of rebellion against those who try to silence us is to keep talking, always, without stopping. Because silence can be imposed by force, but the true voice, the voice that comes from courage and love, that one no one can silence, that voice is eternal, and it will echo forever.